Hi everyone, and welcome to a video going over Assignment 5, Box of Chocolates. So this is a rather fun assignment, which I think is not that complicated. I would try to keep it as lean and mean to just be focused on what we are covering for the assignment, but also try to give it a little bit of heart. And so the assignment is going to be to recreate Forrest Gump's famous box of chocolates. And well, I wouldn't say it's the exact same box of chocolates, but it's kind of the idea. So if you haven't seen Forrest Gump, then I would encourage you to watch it, so you can get engulfed in the assignment, I guess, but it's not required by any means. So let's kind of just go ahead and go over the basic of the assignment. I do encourage you to first read the PDF and then watch this video, so that, because I will try to not go over every single tiny little detail that is already stated in the PDF. So who knows, maybe you don't even need the PDF and you're good to go. I mean, you need the video and you're good to go with the PDF. So really what you're going to be doing in the assignment is you are going to be creating several classes. Of those there are going to be 8 classes total, and of those you will have one of the classes which is going to be your super class, which you're going to be calling like your chocolate class, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of draw some visual aids here, okay? So you have your chocolate class, and this chocolate class is going to be inherited by a lot of other classes, 6 of them to be exact, and they're going to be different flavors of chocolate. As you can guess by what we're doing is we're going to be making the box of chocolates, and the box of chocolates should contain a varied assortment of chocolates. After all, Forrest Gump's famous quote, life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. That's the same feeling that we're trying to recreate with the assignment. And so because I had to, I'm not much of a chocolate eater myself. In fact, I don't remember the last time I had chocolate. I had to kind of just come up with some names for some chocolates. So I was like, okay, we have dark chocolate, milk chocolate, there's hazelnut. Some of these I had to Google because I don't know if they're real. Raspberry. And then you have white chocolate, which I guess is not really chocolate, apparently. It's like some stuff. But yeah, I didn't know that until I Wikipedia that. So yeah, and then of course we have mint as well. So there we go. So we got 2, 4, 6. Yeah, okay. So these are going to be classes of their own, but they're going to inherit from the superclass, which is going to be chocolate. Now, the superclass is going to contain a pure virtual method known as what am I. And so the purpose of this value returning method, it's a string, is not really defined in there. It just exists so that all of the inherited classes have it, because it's required for all of them to then define it in the derived classes. So for example, the dark chocolate is going to define that pure virtual method by returning as a string the name of the class. So it's literally going to return the word dark. Now, why am I doing this? Well, ultimately, what you want to do, and what this last class, so you got the chocolate class, and then you have the 6 flavors of chocolate. You have one more class, which is going to be your box of chocolates. And what this class is going to be is basically a 2-dimensional array of pointers. Each of these pointers is going to be a pointer of the chocolate type class, okay? However, using the great power of polymorphism and virtuals and inheritance, all of those great things together, we're basically going to be able to use the pointers of chocolate here to point to the derived classes. So for example, this chocolate pointer could point to a dark chocolate here. This one could point to a white chocolate. This one could point to a milk chocolate, and so on. So you're able to, when you think about arrays, you think of them as homogeneous data structures. We're kind of bending the rules a little bit and making a heterogeneous data structure, because you have this array that can contain different types of objects from completely different classes within the same array. The way we're doing this is because they all share a common parent, which is going to be the chocolate class. Now the chocolate class is technically an abstract class because it's going to have that pure virtual function. So it does not allow you to just create a chocolate that doesn't have a specific flavor, but it's there to sort of require all of the other classes to define what flavor they are through the what am I function, so that you can then downcast the pointer of chocolate to whatever the real type of that class is in each of the pointers to be, so that you can then call the function that each of these has. So each of these classes of milk and hazelnut and dark, I try to keep it simple, so I just made them have a function there. It's a unique function for all of them. Like one of them is called feel, I think it's called feel bitter, and then another one is called, and all of them are listed on the PDF. But like, for example, hazelnut has get allergy, milk has feel soft, and the function bodies are in the PDF, but all they have is just a print statement, essentially, a cout. Now, in the real world, you would want these functions to actually do more than just a cout statement, otherwise it would be kind of irrelevant to have this whole system set up. But I wanted to keep it simple, so just in your, you just have to imagine each function doing other things other than just printing something out, so that it actually would be useful, okay? And so the idea is that your program is going to go in a loop, in an infinite loop, and is going to, each time is going to reach into the box of chocolates and is going to randomly select the chocolate, a coordinate in the box, and remove that chocolate. Now that chocolate is a chocolate pointer. In order to find out what kind of chocolate it is, it's going to look at the one function that all of the classes share because of its parent, and that's the what am I function. Okay, so it's literally called what am I, and it's a value returning function. Because all the functions share, all the classes share this function, you can call it safely. And then depending on what the real type of this pointer is, you're going to get that back in the form of a string that the function returns. If it's a dark chocolate, then you're going to get the word dark. Now, why does that work? Because of the power of virtuals. The virtual, when you're creating your virtual function, it's telling the compiler, like, hang on, don't do any kind of connection between these functions and the objects until runtime, when we actually know what they're really holding. And you can only achieve this kind of behavior by using the keyword virtual, which is the main focus of the assignment. So it's going to show you the power of virtuals and how they help to achieve this polymorphism, because you have multiple forms, you have multiple flavors, multiple chocolates that you can contain within the same box. So once you call the what am I function in a separate function that you're checking what the chocolate is, which that one's called, I believe, the take chocolate function. So when you call the take chocolate function, it's going to randomly select one of the coordinates from here. It's going to take that chocolate. It's going to call the what am I function in a sort of switch statement, and it's going to look there and see what it returns. And if it returns the word dark, then you know that this is actually a class dark. So it's a dark chocolate. At that point in time, you can downcast the chocolate pointer you have pointing to the dark class, because you know it's dark, and then actually do the downcasting and then convert it into a dark chocolate class object, which then allows you to access the member function of that specific chocolate type, dark chocolate, which would be, what's the one for dark chocolate? Feel bitter. Okay, so that's basically the main logic. What the output is going to look in your program, let's go ahead and switch over to the PDF. So this is me running the program and some of the sample outputs. And so, for example, the first time I run it, the program starts with a quote. You just hard code the quote in so it prints out every time. And it seems like I get a white chocolate first. So I get the name of the chocolate, and then I get the fun message from that function that the white chocolate has. After that happens, the function returns true because it succeeded in extracting a chocolate. It runs again. It tries to take another chocolate. It randomly selects a new set of coordinates, x and y. If it selects a position where the chocolate is still present, because after you remove a chocolate, you remove it. It's gone forever. So you want to deallocate that so you don't have memory leaks, and you want to set it to null. So if you go in again and you happen to select the same location that you already selected before, or any of the ones you've gone through before, and you reach like a null pointer or something, that's when you're like, oh, I just reached into an empty spot, so you just stop eating chocolate. It doesn't mean that there's no more chocolate left. There probably might be. But it just happens that the spot you picked doesn't have anything anymore. So that's the sign to quit eating. You're like, oh, snap. I reached in again and it's empty. I probably ate too much. I'll take a break. So that's how the program ends. And how you would do that is you return a false Boolean from that function. Take chocolate into the main function in the little while loop, which is the main loop, and then it terminates the program. Of course, because it's RNG, you're probably going to get a middle ground where you're going to get about half the chocolates out before you hit the same spot, but you could reach the extremes, as in like you take one chocolate and you're done, or you take them all before you find an empty spot. The first time I ran it, I got what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 10 to like half, I guess. Well, actually, no, what is the size of the chocolate box? I listed here by default. I think it's a 5x6 actually. Yeah, 5x6. So your constructor should have default parameters of 6 for length and 5 for width. So even though I make you do a default parameters and make it flexible like that you can pass in, it's been, at least for the assignment purposes, limited to always being the same dimension. But I still want you to practice using default parameters and make it flexible, so that in theory I could change your main and call box of chocolate class constructor with different dimensions and it should work. So because it's a 6x6, then you're potentially able to have 30 chocolates in there, right? So we're only getting about 10 the first time. The second time I ran it, this was pretty interesting. I only got 3 before I hit a duplicate. Statistically, that's more unlikely to happen, but I got it. So I was like, it's pretty cool. So I actually challenge you all to try different numbers and see if you can find the edge cases of seed values that will return either 1 chocolate, or which is the minimum you're going to get, because at the very least you got to remove 1 chocolate and then land in the same spot again. Or, you know, the other edge case, which is you literally hit all chocolates without hitting it place again until you're flat out empty. So let us know in the comments below or in Discord if you find a special case. Now, let's talk about the seed value for a minute. Obviously, we got to have this work with CodeGrid. And so we needed to find a way to make sure that you could do RNG for this so it's fun, but also make it so that we have the same expectation of output through CodeGrid so that we can test it, right? And the way that the way that I figured that out based on advice from how CodeGrid works is we have a seed value. And so you have a command and argument whenever you run the program, as you can see here. And that command line argument is going to be your seed value for your srand function. So the first thing you do in your main function is you feed that in, convert that to an integer because it's a string. So use something like a to I, convert it to a string, and then put that as the seed value. When you do that, at least we start out with the same seed values for rand. Then from there, it's just a matter of making sure that you call rand in the same sequence that I do. Throughout the PDF, you will find different places where I tell you to call rand, such as like when you're filling the box initially. Make sure you do that in the same order that I'm doing it, so that your randomness matches the same randomness. So in theory, when you put a seed value of 9001, that should be giving you the exact same randomness that I have. So make sure that works. If you're having issues with that with CodeGrid and different matching outputs, it's probably because you didn't follow that. There's not that many places where you got to figure out this randomness. It's only really when you're filling the chocolate box itself initially, and when you're taking a 1 chocolate out. Making sure that, I believe I do first length and then width. Make sure you do them in that order. Otherwise, you're going to have like a transpose matrix. It's not going to work. Okay? So really, that's all there's to it, to the assignment. As long as you do that, you will be okay. What else do I want to say about it? Nothing really. Just if you have any questions, always please post it on Discord or emails or things like that, and they'll get to me if your instructors can't understand them or something. I'm sure they'll ask me, but it's a pretty straightforward assignment. Then they have the solutions, so they know what order of randomness I did. But everything is pretty clear here. Let's switch over to this for a second. I'm going to look at the solution and see if there's anything that I want to point out. I recommend you use the arrow operator and use dynamic casting properly. Otherwise, you will have issues when you're trying to downcast. In take chocolate function, I am first assigning the length and then the width. So I use rand for that. So make sure you do that in that order. Rand for the length first and then for the width. And then for fill box, I use a switch statement to decide what I want to fill the box with for each of the dimensions, which I'm going length and width first. So I'm going, for the length and then for the width, and then I'm in the switch statement, which has 6 different options that you saw. And I'm basically doing rand mod 6. And then the switch case, you gotta make sure that matches mine. It goes, and I have it on the PDF, it goes dark, milk, hazelnut, raspberry, white, and mint. If those don't match, then the whole thing will not match. So that's the only thing you gotta be careful about. If we weren't doing code grade, this would not be an issue. In fact, I would encourage you all to have different funny meme jokes for each of the print statements, but unfortunately for code grade so that it works, we all have to have the same output. So that's what it is. And that's all I have to say about that, I guess. Okay, so that is the assignment. I wish you all good luck with it. And have fun. Thanks for watching. Take care.